and he'll hold up a red card when there's approximately 15 seconds left. If you start to run long, persons wishing to speak on items not on the agenda should complete a speaker's card. These cards back in the back table, and present it to the recording secretary. Public comment be limited to 3 minutes per person. People are also invited to submit written comments on agenda items or attend and make comment on the item at the commission meeting. No action will be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action could be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Did we have anybody that specifically wrote public comment on a card?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else that did not would like to say something? Go ahead.
I've got a card I didn't write down. Public comment. For the record, my name is Bob Bruner. I'm with the Coalition for Nevada Wildlife, although I'm not speaking on their behalf today. I'd like to congratulate the new members and welcome to the board. This morning I'd like to talk, I went to the CAB meeting in Washoe. I saw that the CCP for the Sheldon is still open, and that's why I didn't bring that up at that meeting. I'm bringing it up here. The recruitment for antelope on the Sheldon is the worst in the state. And I would like, since this is a short time before this closes out, that you folks contact the Sheldon and let them know that the state has the right and the responsibility for wildlife management on the Sheldon. I know you don't have time for an action item and this and that. Maybe you can call the governor and ask him to call the Sheldon and let them know that so it gets on the CCP. Anyways, I'm going to do that. Anybody else can do that. But the second thing I would like to ask of this board is that you go ahead after that and go ahead and put together a predator control program on the Sheldon. I don't think it needs to be anything radical. I don't think it needs to be anything more than we're doing in the rest of the state. Big game tags for mountain lions, trap the bobcats, shoot the coyotes. They had a study in 2003 where they shot 420 coyotes in Vaya and 011 right there, and fawn-doe ratios went from 36 fawns to 100 does, went straight up to 61 fawns for 100 does right after they did that. So the new guy on the Sheldon has been quoted saying that predators are an integral part of the sagebrush ecosystem, except he's from the Chesapeake Bay, and so he probably needs a little education there on sagebrush ecosystems and also Nevada law. So I'd like to bring that forward and ask that we get that done. So we can help out the antelope and the deer. We've got mountain lions coming in from Oregon artificially because of their laws, and we've got them coming in from California too. So I'd like to see that taken on. Thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Brenner?
We have a question for you from Mr. Lent.
Yes.
We had some testimony. On that yesterday, and from some individuals in the audience, and they said there's predator control going on in the Sheldon, and I said, to my knowledge, I haven't seen any predator control in the Sheldon for as long as I can remember, but they were testifying that there was some ongoing predator control in the Sheldon. Do you know of any predator control that's been in the Sheldon for?
I do not, and again, that is the state's right and the state's responsibility. I mean, if a mountain lion's a big game animal, and if you're going to increase by taking out coyotes, you can increase antelope by hundreds and hundreds every year. That's a big game. That's your deal. So.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm not aware of anything. No, to answer your question, I have not heard it. Just the one study that was in 011.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Okay, we had another question from Mr. Bruner, and then we'll have Mr. Belden.
Yes, sir.
That's a wonderful comment. I just would like to question, Mr. Chairman, and you, are you sure we can trump federal law?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's the state's right, and like I said, that's they kind of go fuzzy there on us a little bit, but we already control the deer and the sheep. We just haven't stepped forward and taken that step and say, you know what, this is ours. This is what we want to do. This is our responsibility, and we're going to do it.
Because it's not migratory. Is that?
That's right. You cannot do anything with ravens. Ravens are not your authority. Okay, they're migratory, and so for predators, you can't do anything with Sheldon ravens. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't do mountain lions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Belden.
Mel Belding, Washoe County, representing himself. Question to Dr. Lent. Under Michael Nunn, if you remember Dr. Lent back in the 90s, the Heart Mountain burned up pretty well. And they had a study on the coyotes that showed that I believe 97% of the fawns that died were by predation of the coyotes. And in the Heart Mountain, the Sheldon Hart complex, they did whack some coyotes that year to find those out. So that's the latest I can remember. Mike Nunn also tried to get a chute for coyotes on the Sheldon. The same year we took the fence out of Hell Creek for the California sheep, and that was shut down by some coyote friends of coyotes. So there hasn't been some for late term that I know of. And Daryl Capurro Mr. Capurro probably remembers that also. I do have a couple comments about what Mr. Bruner said. I think we should pursue it. On the last scoping letters, we put in a lot of sportsmen. One other thing that was put in there was grazing from the grazing board. The front page says that there will be no grazing anymore on the Sheldon. That's on the front page of their report. We were hoping that they just wouldn't address it. Then we could go at them a different angle, but they did address it. Same with predators. They had a lot of letters on predators, and they refused to, so far they've refused to listen to us about predators. We need it, and I from what I've been told by some pretty outstanding guys, it is states' rights, and we can have them do it, and I think it should be done. That Sheldon should be no different than 011. I agree with that. Thank you.
I think we have a question here, Mr. Lent.
I agree with you, and that study on the antelope, I still have it. It was done in, I think, 3 parts. Mike Nunn did it, and it said exactly what you said, and he tried to get a deal, predator program there, but it was shut down in Portland by all the antis up there, and so he couldn't get any predator control on there, and and I spent a lot of time up there, and I was seeing coyote just rip the young right out from the afterbirth, and I think you and everyone else, so and I think this commission is, we'll do everything we can to help that cause, and I'll be talking about that under the WAFA on some of the states' rights here coming up on a report, but we appreciate your support on that.
Well, good. I think we should, and with the ravens, I believe myself personally that we can do something with the ravens also, especially when what's happening to the Bald Mountain Lek. If anybody's familiar with leks and stuff, you could just go read about the Bald Mountain Lek. Chairman Capurro, or Commissioner Capurro, yesterday, or I believe it was in the predator meeting, he said, I believe there's mountain lions in the Sheldon. Well, when we took the fence down for the sheep, I seen the tracks, and I was out ahead of everybody going into Hell's Canyon. So when I got over there, I talked to one of the state or the federal biologists, and I said, "How many mountain lions you got on the Sheldon?" And he says, "We don't have mountain lions on the Sheldon." And I says, "Hey, partner, I was riding in front of you guys. I'm on the lion track, driving right down the road." And he says, "Well, we have a few." But I mean, until I said, "Hey, look, I'm looking at a mountain lion track," But thank you,
Mr. Capurro, you have a question?
To further that comment, I believe that study, you mentioned ravens, I believe that study also showed that about 5% of those deaths came from ravens, and this is on antelope, not on sage grouse and the like. So I was curious as to how that could happen, but it was explained to me how they peck out the eyes of the young and the like. So, but it's the problem that we have is dealing with the issue that their rules say that unless you have a tag or some permission to hunt from the state, then you're not supposed to be carrying firearms. Now that flies directly in opposition to the rule that was sent out and adopted basically by Congress that says in all national parks, refuges and the like, you can now conceal carry if the state allows it. That still doesn't allow us, under their rules, to kill coyotes or anything else on the Sheldon. So, trying to get over that hurdle is a daunting task. I'd love to be able to do what you've said and what Mr. Bruner said, and that I'm just not sure we can do it.
I think if you pursue the Refuge Act, you will see that you can do it. Just pursue the Refuge Act.
You're right about
That's
that.
where you're going to find what we're talking about.
You're right about the lions, though.
Mr. Vogler?
Through you, Chairman, you can fly on those federal refuges. They may not want to do it. The Malheur Refuge in southeast Oregon was originally set up to protect greater sandhill cranes, and they got to where, for a period of over 10 years, there was not one live greater sandhill crane raised on the refuge. They were all raised on private land of ranchers around it. And finally, they went after them, and they shot pickup loads off of there of coyotes. And besides, it's our airspace. If you don't touch the ground, you're not necessarily touching their ground.
Just two other comments real quick. Water, I mean, it's important we got to get into the Sheldon thing. Water's number one, that they don't want to look at any more artificial water sources in the Sheldon. And so they're going to go ahead and maintain the 17 artificial water sources that they have. And the other thing is wilderness. I mean, you're looking at up to 80% wilderness of the Sheldon. You're looking at 550,000 acres in the Sheldon, and they're talking about popping 400,000 acres into wilderness. That's fine, but what the sportsman needs to demand is that, look, we are going to be able to go in with mechanical and motorized equipment, and we're going to stop fires, and we're going to be able to prevent those fires. I mean, but you make the Sheldon a true wilderness. Right now, it's a hunk of coal, and it could be a diamond. But you make that Sheldon wilderness, and to the true sense of the world, pardon me, you might as well stay out of that part of the state. Thank you.
All right, any other further public comment in the audience? Seeing none, we have any public comment from the commission? Down here? Down there. All right, then we'll move on. Let's go back.